courtesy of Arsenal.com. His press conference on the issues after the international break. Apologies, people. Johan has said, can't lie, I'm not trying to see Dallas and Harrison both spinning Maitland down. Oh man, big up Maitland now. You can't do my guy dirty like that. But apologies, people. When asked on the issues potentially faced during the international break, our manager Mikel Arteta said, yes, it is very unusual and concerning because you have players all over the world, and with the context of COVID, it makes things very unpredictable, and most of the time when it is predictable, it's not good news for them. But I think a lot of the clubs are in the same position, and you have to try and make it as easy as possible for the players, but at the same time, it's not ideal to prepare for football games. Asked on what he expects from Leeds, he said that they will go full gas like they always do, and they have had 2 weeks to prepare for the game. They don't have as many internationals as us, and I don't really expect them to change much. They are very loyal to their principles, to the way they play, and they approach every game the same way, which is to win and to be very aggressive with and without the ball and to try to win. It doesn't matter where they play. What I've seen from them in the last season, it is not a concern about who they play against. It's about what they do. So what does that tell you, people? Again, you know, Arteta spoken about, apologies, 1 second, people. If you're wondering why I keep writing things down, it's because I like to chop and change these for, you know, the people that can't obviously be on the live stream and give them a little bite-sized thing. But what I've taken from that first statement about what he expects from Leeds is what we all know. You know, they're an aggressive side. They're true to their principles. Bielsa has rubber stamped his, you know, his DNA on the team. They play that way every time, you know, at the detriment and to their success. You know, when it works, they're so brave for sticking to their principles, for getting promoted. When it doesn't work, you know what he said, similar things that were said to Norwich. I've been impressed with Leeds, and I've said it. I like what Leeds have brought to the table. You can tell that, you know, first and foremost, you know, growing up, Leeds were in the Premier League. They deserve to be in the Premier League. And for me, from what I'm seeing from Leeds in terms of what they're doing in the market with someone like Bielsa, obviously for the next season or two, Leeds just have to focus on becoming a you know, stable top team in the Premier League, a stable team in the Premier League. But you can tell they're going to do the things what you've seen with Leicester and, you know, what Everton are trying to do and have been trying to do, and Wolves are now doing and stuff, trying to push on and do other stuff and maybe eventually be in Europe. I'm sure if you're a Leeds fan, you remember when they were in Europe and they were challenging United for titles and all of those things. I mean, you know, Leeds had some ballers. For me, my favourite player for Leeds is probably, you know, Tony Ceballos, slightly before my time. Apart from YouTube, I can't really take him in. I had a lot of time for Yakubu, man said Yakubu, Mark Viduka, my guys, man. He was a baller. I didn't mind Alan Smith. There's a couple of Leeds ballers. Harry Krul was my guy as well. They had a couple of savages. Did Johnson play for them, the striker? Did he play for them for a point? Obviously, they had, I'm sure they had Aaron Lennon at a point. You know, I pick up Leeds. They deserve to be in it. But going back to the main point and moving away from nostalgia, people, you know, we know what to expect. They're going to be aggressive. We know there's going to be holes, a byproduct. You know, it's maybe extreme, but you look at Bayern Munich, as great as they are, and nobody can match Bayern Munich, but they leave a couple of gaps because of what they're trying to do and pressing the opposition. Bayern Munich leave some holes that a team could exploit. You know, even when they smacked Barca could have scored about 4 or 5. Do you get it? So with that logic, looking back to Leeds now, Leeds have that same issue in that you see gaps. They are there for the taking on the transition. You know, they have conceded a lot of goals. Their keeper Millier is not the oldest. He has shown his quality in his shot stopping, but there have been times this season he has shown his age. You know, Leeds are not invincible, but you've got to match them. You know, you've got to match their desire to win. You know, half of these players, I'm not going to say it's a highlight of their season, but playing the Cities, the Arsenal, the Liverpools, this is why they got promoted. Not only to bring Leeds there, but they want to play these games, you know, play well in these games, shut these superstars big money up. You know, if I'm a Leeds defender, I want to keep a Bamian in my pocket. You know, I want to make sure he don't score. You know, they're up for that. And you look at how they've played against Manchester City, how they had Pep begging for a point. You've seen how they've obviously played against Liverpool, let themselves down, obviously, to not get anything from the game. But they're there, you know, they have a lot of threats. They've got Patrick Bamford, who's in good form as well. You know, only what Calvert-Lewin, Salah, you know, Jamie Vardy, I think players along them lines are ahead of him in terms of goal scoring. Jack Harrison down that left-hand flank, he crosses it early. You know, what we do off the ball, as Arteta has said, is going to make the difference, especially the transition, the attacking transition, the defensive transition. And for me, what we need from our team, shoot. You know, this team have conceded a lot of shots on target, have conceded a lot of goals. So in typical Arsenal fashion, I don't want to see us turn up there and not have a shot. If Leeds beat us 2-0 or something, walk away with a clean sheet, it would be typical, but it would annoy me because, you know, it would be us to let players have clean sheets, to let them get positive statistics, have opportunities. You know, this team, and as an Arsenal fan, you cannot read into what's happened with Leeds, because I'm sure Villa lost back-to-back games before playing us, but you look at Leeds, they've lost 4-1 in their last 2 games against Leicester and Palace, I'm sure. You know, 8 goals conceded in their last 2 games. They, you know, at times they do show they're a championship team, as much as I admire them. You know, we need to respect them. I'm not saying anything. You know, we cannot turn up there and just expect to get anything. But we need to make sure we're spot on without the ball. On the ball, we need to show bravery and we need to match their aggression. I know our backs are against the wall with obviously these injuries and the form we've been in. You know, we need to do a madness. You know, Patrick Bamford's moving more clinical than the whole Arsenal team. And the one worry you've got is, if I'm a Leeds player, I'm honestly sitting there like, yo, we've lost back-to-back games, you know, but we're a good side. We're trying to stay in the Premier League. Our season restarts again against Arsenal. You know, we've done well against City, we've done well against Liverpool. They're massively above Arsenal. You know, we've taken both those teams to the wire. We respect what Arsenal have and we respect their manager, but they're there for the taking. They're soft. Let's go and put more question marks. If we score a first goal, are Arsenal going to get back in it? Now, many times, maybe the best thing that could happen for Arsenal is conceding a goal, because I'm sure many of you Arsenal fans see or have seen, the minute we concede, we start going, oh gosh, we need to play football. That's actually one thing I obviously don't want it to happen. That's one thing that concerns me psychologically, because of the goals Leeds have conceded, not for Leeds anyways. I don't really care for Leeds. But from an Arsenal perspective, how both teams react after not only scoring but potentially conceding is how I'm gonna see things. Obviously, Arteta, I wouldn't say Arteta made excuses, but you heard him allude to the fact of their players get called up at international level less than those. Now, if I'm a Leeds player, you shouldn't take it as disrespect, but I'm going to take it as disrespect to kind of G me up. He's not insulting them for obvious reasons. You know, we've got more players in and around national setups right now, you know, so they're going to be a bit fresher. So we need to consider that, you know, again, it shouldn't be a thing, but that's something he said to consider. When asked on the importance of responding after the Aston Villa defeat, and it's important to respond, because you remember him saying, I wish we had a game tomorrow and stuff so we could get this out of the system so he could see how his players reacted. Our boss said, obviously, it's been a painful week, because normally when you have a defeat at home, you want a game straight away. That wasn't the case, but we used that as well to reflect on what we are doing, to analyze why that happened. We were all shocked the way we ended the game, the last 25 or 30 minutes. Before that, it was a different game, but still we have to improve in many areas. That consistency is something we need to get much better at. And after the good result and brilliant performance at Old Trafford, to get that loss was a shock to the system for everyone. But let's take out the positives from it, learn and move on. And, you know, Arteta in the break said he learns more from defeat. And there is a lot of eyes on Arteta and a lot of wolves on Arteta and the players. I'm not too sure I agree about the segments in relation to the last 25. We were just never in the game. And, you know, you mentioned the result against United. Again, it was good, but it goes back to it's irrelevant in a sense of you need to show that that's normal. And, you know, maybe our players had a degree of, I won't say arrogance, but complacency. They think because they played well at Old Trafford against an under-hit United side, you know, they could talk something. And Aston Villa made them eat humble pie. You know, that's a lesson for our players. You need to apply it. There's no point doing it against United. Like I've said, you know, Arsenal do this all the time. We'll get we'll win a cup we'll go through the FA Cup, or we'll win a couple of times against United or a big team. And, you know, when you look at them in isolation, they're great, but collectively for our season, it means little. You know, would you rather lose to United and get top 4? I'm sure most fans would accept the defeat, myself included. Pardon me. And again, you know, it means nothing beating another top 4 rival or contender in United if you can't do it against Aston Villa, a team that was struggling to stay in the league last season. Shout out to Villa and their form as well, people. You know, and like you said, they're unpredictable. And for me, unpredictable is something we should fear. We should try and be unpredictable. We're a predictable team. They're unpredictable. We should fear the unpredictable. But I want to see people rise to the challenge. We've spoken about how they start and how aggressive they are and things. Starts well. I know it was a while ago, but you look at the Aston Villa game. Did we start well, people? Start well, or teams will hit you. The only consolation is that Leeds will concede. They can concede, sort of thing. Like us, neither team can defend, sort of thing. You know, we all expect it to kind of be a free-for-all, to be an open game. And to a degree, I want to see that. Make me more it make as a someone watching it be more entertaining, but you know, for the neutrals as well. But as an Arsenal fan, it would make me more nervous. So maybe in typical fan fashion, this is a board draw. Both teams try and set up to defend because they don't want to, you know, they think about the threats. You know, we've got name brand players in terms of being able to score goals. Leeds' players are doing the business, but he's right. We do have to respond, and it can be very lonely if you lose before the international break. We lose again. We play on the Sunday. You know, it's a long Monday morning. You know, and then obviously we've got the Europa League, but it can get very long and pressure can start mounting. As I said at the start, it can become a snowball and an avalanche. Better yet. So yeah, man. He was then asked on whether he finds management all consuming in brackets. He said, at the moment, in the context of COVID, it makes it that way. I feel so privileged to be where I am because I love so much what I do. I love to be sitting representing this football club and having the opportunity to spend time with these players and staff. But I think it's a job where every time you are resolving issues and resolving problems. And to be fair, that's something, as much as I defend Arteta, he has actually done. There's been more been more questions posed this season, historical questions that have been there, and some of his own, then answers. He said, if you get shocked by that every day, then energy-wise, it is very consuming. I come in now and I am expecting something to come through the door and give me bad news and having to react because I know it is coming right now. I try to prepare myself and my mood in the morning to say, okay, let's see what we face today and go for it. Good mentality to have. He spoke more about resilience as a manager, and you know what, I was going to skip it out, but maybe we'll read it just based on the form he's in. And Arteta's got to never stop believing in himself really right now, especially because there's scrutiny. He said, absolutely. And how you bounce back, how you navigate through difficult moments, and how convinced you are about what you are doing. And at the end of the day, how you judge yourself on decisions you make and where those decisions are coming at the end from you. It is a real feeling. It is a real feeling. Hey man, the person who's done this Arsenal article has not proofread what they're saying. He said, is it a real feeling? They've put do twice, people, in the sentence. So I've had to read it a couple of times, but is it a real feeling? Do you do it for someone else or for any other opinion? Or do you think it is the right thing for the club, the players, or the staff? Then when asked on Thomas Partey, or asked if he could be back, he said no. He picked up an injury very early in the game against Aston Villa. He tried to carry on and he wanted to play the second half, and we knew it was a significant injury. He's done very well. He's working very hard and he wants to be available. Hopefully we can get him back soon, but it's an area where we have to be careful and a bit protective with the player. We do have to protect him. Partey is a key part of our season. He's the only midfielder really that's certified. You know, I'm not going to sit and act like I know things. You know, obviously Partey seems not a difficult character in a bad way, but you know, he wants to play. He doesn't want to come off. He wants to leave it all on the ring. I have to say, why didn't we sub him early doors against Villa? Could we have potentially saved him then? In that regards, could we have saved him? I don't know. That's something to ponder as well. You know, he was then asked on protocols at international level for players. We won't get onto that. He was then asked on Gabon and the Aubameyang situation. There's no point speaking about that. We already know. He was then asked on the reported incidents between David Luiz and obviously Ceballos. He said nothing. Training is very competitive and issues happen a lot of the time, but those things get resolved immediately with the team. There's not much to say. And he summed it up perfectly. He summed up what my video said. You know, it's competitive. There's a lot of testosterone. Everybody wants to win. Everyone wants to do well. Things happen, you know. Have your handbags, bless it. You know, like they say in boxing, leave your ego at the door, scrap it out. Shake hands after we go again. If people then start holding feelings and resentment and carrying that in their heart as they go along, then that's not good for the team, people, because it rubs up on other man. But I think he said it, you know, he's more or less told us what's happened. He's more or less said there's nothing to talk about. Training is competitive. It happens all the time. You know, it basically got nipped in the bud, and beyond that, I ain't got much to say to you. I think that sentence there sums it up. He was then asked on whether there's an issue between the two. He said there's no problem at all, and at least for now, we wouldn't be told anyways. He was then further asked on whether he saw what happened. He's never going to snitch. He was Arsene Wenger's, you know, an Arsene Wenger disciple. Wenger was famous for saying, I never saw it. And he said the same thing. He said, he kills me. Arteta has said, no, I've got a really bad vision from far away. That's why we train behind closed doors. And yeah, man, I think this happened, but I've spoken about that yesterday, so go back, man. Man said Pepe had a channel. Yeah, Pepe's got a channel now. I'm hearing it. Your girl brought you here. Tell her if she wants to with a star, she knows who to shout, my tug. But moving away from that, people, like he said, he's got bad vision and whatnot. He couldn't see that. He obviously knows full well, and I think he's indirectly told us. So it is what it is, you know. It's water under the bridge. Footballers fight all the time, rugby players fight all the time, professional athletes fight all the time. It is what it is, people. I just hope both players ain't in their feelings. They just keep it moving, and it is what it is. You're hearing speaking of a bloody nose and these sort of things. Obviously, you're hoping that's not the case, but it is what it is, man. Maybe these stories have been exaggerated. Willian, which is of even more interest to me, considering the man was in Dubai, and it's made a lot of hysterias and all of these sort of things. On Willian, he said on whether he would play on Sunday after being in Dubai, allegedly. You keep asking, and he sounds vexed. He said, you keep asking me for more and more issues. Whatever happens internally with any issues or things that we don't expect, as always, we will try to resolve them internally. That's been dealt with and explained, and we move on. And you can tell, one thing I've seen very early doors about Mikel Arteta, people, is that he can get frustrated very quickly. He ain't really got the patience of Wenger when he's being asked dumb questions. And I like that. You can, again, I'm just interpreting it because I haven't heard him say it. I'm going to listen to the press conference later, but this is just me interpreting it. You know, I think that's a firm and quite a rowdy reply. And that kind of tells you, again, he never said there was no issue at all. He never said that it was sanctioned. Who knows, man? We'll never know the finer details until someone tells us. Personally, on one hand, I think Willian, as I've said, was sanctioned to do what he wants to do and go out there on the, especially because we had days off allegedly. On the other hand, if he's done that and put himself in a difficult position from an experienced player, an underperforming experienced player, you've put yourself in the headlines unnecessarily. So yeah, he was then further pressed on whether Willian let him down. He said, we had a conversation and I explained what I expected. And I think that's telling, because he said he could have said no, he didn't, but he said it. He said, he said it there. He said, we've had a conversation and I've explained what I expected. There are a lot of personal factors at the moment, and as well from our side, we need to be in their shoes. A lot of players are having different issues, like any person out there, and sometimes they make decisions based on the needs of the moment. Maybe his family wanted a holiday, maybe he needed warm weather, or what people are expecting from them, whether they are right or wrong. It's a thing that we have to discuss, but it's been dealt with in the right way. So let's move on. And that probably tells you it might have been unsanctioned and might not have been, you know, with Arsenal's blessing, people, and could have potentially aggravated Arteta. And I won't say Williams lost his trust. You make mistakes, it's happened, and we'll never know the reasons. Is it family reasons? Is it marketing? Was he told he could go or believed he could go? Believed he could go and he actually couldn't, you know. Was he legitimately allowed to go? Was he given days off and then just flew out? You know, he's given days off, he don't really have to report to anyone or anything. Did he just say, you know what, let me go, and then it's unnecessary? He was then asked on whether Joe Willock should start, and I think, like we've spoken about, there's a good opportunity for Joe there. I think he will go with Xhaka and Ceballos, but you know, Joe's worked well, he's deserved an opportunity. If he doesn't take it, then he goes back to the, you know, to the line in terms of opportunities and waiting. But the man himself has said, I mentioned with Joe that I've been really impressed with him, the way he's handled the situation of not having much game time in the Premier League. I haven't seen him train like he's done in the last 5 or 6 weeks under different circumstances. I think the reflection of that is the way he's playing in the Europa League when he's had minutes, or the Cat Yarabel Cup in this case. He has a chance like everybody else to play on Sunday, and, you know, we'll see. He was asked on Eddie Nketiah, he said he's another one that is fighting and knocking on the door every day. I really like his mentality. He's cultured. He comes into the training ground and he says, I should have scored 4. So that's the type of ambition and hunger you want from our players. So again, with both of them and some others, I'm really happy. Now, for me, educated guess, you know, with the injury suffered in midfield, Joe has a chance. But if you had to bet some money, you could say Eddie Nketiah is more likely to start. He's actually kept Lacazette out the team. If Xhaka and Ceballos are fit in a Premier League game, it remains to be seen if Arteta will elect for Joe Willock ahead of them this season, because there's been opportunities, he's kept some out and he started them. Like, remember Joe last season, forgive me if I'm wrong, did he not start against Manchester City away? So make of that what you will. He was asked on Pep Guardiola's new deal, and obviously he's going to say he's pleased for him and whatnot. Obviously Arteta's also always been quite critical on the need for 5 subs and rest, and you can see a lot of managers, and I think the Premier League needs 5 subs, people. I think we need that. You know, the players are dropping like flies, and it's no coincidence. No preseason, competitive fixtures schedule, bunch of pre-season, bunch of international games which are irrelevant unless it's an official qualifier for something. You shouldn't be playing in it, and you're seeing it, people. He was asked on whether we're asking too much. Obviously, the footballing world, he said, it is really demanding, and it's never been done to play the amount of games that we have to play in a calendar year in the history of football. Obviously, we know the consequences of that, and the only thing from my side that I would demand to the Premier League and to the broadcasters is let's protect the players. At the end of the day, this industry, yes, we do it without being together in the room. We're doing it training individually and doing it without having the possibility as the manager to speak to them all in a room. And we've done it without the fans. But guys, we need the players. We have to protect them as much as possible. They are the protagonists of this whole industry, and they are. You know, if they don't do the business on the football field, you know, if Ronaldo don't do the business on the football field, you know, nobody cares really and truly to a degree. The players make the game, as we know, and they're exploited a lot. What footballers make are pennies compared to the clubs. And I would think if people understood it and saw it, they'd have a bit more sympathy for players, or if not necessarily sympathy, a bit more energy for other players, people. He said, if you have to modify the rules and make them a little bit more flexible to get them a better opportunity to be fit, and it's not just physically, I mean mentally as well, then let's just do it, please. And then obviously he was asked on the Premier League 5 rule. I won't bore you with the paragraph he provided, but yeah, you know he's very keen on the 5-man rule. He was then asked on, is Willan traveling? He said the situation has been resolved, explained and dealt with in the team and the club. That's all I can say. And, you know, Willan might not be traveling. He might have to sit this one out in line with discipline. He probably is traveling, in my opinion, if he has tested negative and all of these things. And maybe a bit of it is less to deal with. Let's stop thinking about the internal rumblings and problems Arsenal are currently facing, people, and focus more on, you know, you don't really want to tell Bielsa exactly who you've got. This is a man who, you know, who flies drones. You kind of want to give him, you kind of want to play coy any small opportunity you get, people. So yeah, on Bukayo Saka, and again we spoke at the beginning, you know, about, you know, he's played a lot of football before the international break and for England and done quite well. Will he get a chance? I think he should play regardless. He said, well, I have to see today when he comes back how he's looking and how he's feeling. Obviously, he's a 19-year-old kid and he's played a lot of football in the last few months, and we have to protect him. I understand from Gareth's point as well. He had an injury of Chilwell and he probably didn't plan to give him that many minutes, but circumstances forced him to do it, which I believe as well. From my side, it's not ideal, but if I was in Gareth's shoes, I would have done the same. It is what it is. Let's see how he comes back and try to get him fit and recovered and see how he is for Sunday. On Pablo Mari, you know, Pablo Mari's barely played for this football club. He said he's really looking good in training. Obviously, he's had a difficult surgery. He had a screw. And sometimes when you have an external body, inside, it can react in an unexpected way. And it was causing some inflammation and irritation in the joint all the time, and his ankle was swelling. So there was complications around his rehab and around his surgery, people. You know, it clearly, I have to assume, you know, he got infected, and that's obviously going to push you back even more. And that's going to lead to calls when us fans were like, hang on, didn't you tell us end of September? So there's been setbacks. I would say for the club, why couldn't they tell us a bit earlier? Because then it you know, we need dialogue. When Arteta and people first came last season, it felt like there was I wouldn't say there was a clear communication channel, but it looked like we was getting a bit more dialogue. Again, if you tell fans what's what, they stop saying things. But hopefully Pablo Mari is back playing properly. You know, this is a man's health. Hopefully the ankle is fine and he can firmly focus on getting fit, match fit and playing. So yeah, he's been out. Apparently he's working really hard and he looks good in training. When asked if he has a role in the first team, he said yes, he does. We've been hit really hard with some big injuries, not only Pablo, but Cedric as well. Since he's joined, he's had 2 or 3 different incidences. Gabby Martinelli has been out for such a long time. Chambers got injured 3 weeks after I was here, and he hasn't played a single game. He is still recovering. It is what it is. What I can say is that the approach of those players and the way they've been trying to work to get back to their best has been phenomenal in all cases. He was further pressed on Willan. He said, I don't, and if Willan actually broke club rules, he said, I don't confirm anything, only that it was an issue that's been resolved, explained, and let's move on. So again, in terms of David Luiz and Ceballos, and obviously Willan. These sound like true stories, but we don't want to add more fuel to the fire, give people more clicks than we need to. Well, seeming like, you know, you lot make up your minds, leave it to people like me to speculate and provide talking points, and you lot to comment. We're going to leave it on that. And I'm not being funny. If I was Arteta, I'd be doing the same. I'm trying to focus on Leeds. You know, I don't want to have to be answering the same old question about, you know, about people in Dubai and a bust up on a football field and even transfers. I don't even want to hear about transfers unless I'm talking to people at this club that make things happen. I don't want to be spoken about in transfers. I'm just trying to deal with the Leeds game. And as you can tell, there's a bag of things to consider. He was then asked on keeping a grip on discipline. He said, it's impossible because we have so many rules, so many guidelines that we have to follow. Sometimes without even thinking, you can break them. Even in training, when you give a bib to someone else, you think, oh no, I cannot do that. The bib has to be here and someone has to come with gloves. Sometimes you don't even know you're breaking the rules. So let's just try to think that we are all very aware of that and we are dealing with it and we take it very, very seriously. Everyone can make a mistake. It's just where that mistake's coming from. I think that's the relevant thing. He was asked on Cedric finally, people, and he said, I've seen a big change in Cedric in the last month or so. I think his performances in the Europa League have been much better. He needed some time to adapt to our way of playing. And most importantly, he needed his fitness levels to be at a standard we need. That was impossible because he had some injuries when he came here. He had some really bad injuries, including to his knee after he broke his nose. He's had some difficulties. But again, he's a lad who's trying really hard every day in training. He's accepting the situation and he's fighting against it to prove us wrong. And we'll try to provide him more opportunities. And that prove us wrong thing is interesting. It's always what I say in a sense of, you know, prove them wrong, you know, prove why you deserve to start. And I think that's what he means, you know, prove why you're not a first choice option at the moment. But, you know, that prove us wrong. We could speculate. Did some people at this club not believe in your credentials? Could that be eligible, you know, applicable to the fans? Who knows? But that's all Mikel Arteta had to say. If you don't know already, bite size for the injury status of our players. As you lot know, Thomas Partey has an injury to his left thigh after being replaced at halftime against Villa. He's continuing to be assessed, but he'll be unavailable for this weekend's match and will continue his rehab. You know, as we've just said, Marie is still progressing well and now integrating into full training. Positively for Gabriel Martinelli. And, you know, he's had a serious injury after suffering it in training to his left knee. Apparently, he has also progressed very well, is working very well in group sessions and aims to integrate into squad sessions over the next 2 weeks. So potentially he could be back slightly ahead of schedule. We've got to take it easy. Probably he's got to play 23s and just take it easy with him and allow him to get at his best. He's been out for a period, but you know, I'm keen to see Martinelli back, and I'm sure you're all seeing Martinelli. He's looking hella wham now, and you know he's going to be an animal one day. So we'll have to see what happens. And obviously, El Nene and Kolasinac are both out, sadly, with COVID issues. Trust me, my guy, I cannot wait until he is back, people. I really cannot wait. So yeah, man, that was a bit of a long read. We've got another long read in a second, people. Let me see what you lot have been saying.